Hello, everyone. Sorry, we're about a minute behind today. Just getting everything set up for you. Welcome to our next webinar in our series. This is the fourth of a series for the OpenText D2 Life Sciences solution. And today we'll be covering the Submission, Store, and View module from OpenText. If you had missed our previous webinars, we do have those recorded. We covered the Research and Development module, also the Quality and Manufacturing module already, as well as the introduction. So those are recorded and available for you to view if you have interest. So today, I'm Larissa Primavera. I'm Sales Director for FME US, and with me is Frank Dentrone. He's our president here at FME US, and we also have Pinal Shah. He's a senior consultant with FME and also an expert in the D2 Life Sciences solution. So today we're going to talk a little bit about who we are. We'll give you an overview of the Submission, Store, and View module. And then also we're going to show you a demonstration of this module as well. So just the next one is a little bit of housekeeping, just so you're aware. You are in listen-only mode, so you are muted. But at the end of the session, we welcome the Q&A, and we welcome any questions that you have. Just send them directly to the chat, to the organizer, and we'll be able to answer them accordingly. The session is being recorded as with the previous sessions, and you'll be able to share it with your colleagues or view it again. So a little bit about who we are. We are your partner for digital transformation in life sciences and industrial manufacturing. We do say more because we have a lot of core competencies with platform and do work with other industries as well. We also have a product called Migration Center, which is cross-industry. So, but our main focuses are life sciences and industrial manufacturing, and one of the reasons why we're here providing you this webinar today. We focus in on ECM and mainly in the OpenText Documentum suite, a couple of others as well. Business intelligence, cloud big data, social collaboration. These are some of the other areas we focus in as well. We were founded in 1995. We have over 190 employees, and we have offices throughout Germany. So we are a global organization and also an office in Romania. This is our nearshore, offshore team, as well as our product development. So they're a part of FME. And then we come from the United States. So we're located in Danbury, Connecticut, and been here since March of 2010. So with that, Frank, I will turn it over to you to talk about the Submission, Store, and View module.
All right. Well, thanks, Larissa, for the background or the intro and the background of FME. And what I want to do is just add another, I think I have another slide that kind of characterizes a little bit more about who we are at FME, and then we'll jump right into the main topic for today. So here at FME, we do, as Larissa mentioned, have a strong focus, vertical focus in the life sciences industry. So we have here at FME a portfolio offering. So we offer a variety of services and skill sets around the life sciences industry, covering from consulting services through operational support, through a migration service, or in many cases we help customers develop a migration factory model where they have ongoing migration activity, maybe because of M&A or other types of consolidation or replatforming strategies. So we offer, that's a strong focus here at FME. For those who may know us, that's something that I know we're well known in the market for that. But we also work in a strong focus in technology deployment services, evaluation support and training and assessment. So we've covered kind of the full spectrum from a portfolio offering in that vertical life sciences industry. So I just want to cover that just so to give you awareness, and then we'll jump into the main topic for today. So a little more background about the life sciences suite. So now that it's been some time now, but OpenText has acquired the ECD business portfolio from EMC and been a while now. But here, beyond that, OpenText still had and has a strong footing in the life sciences vertical. So there's very complementary in terms of this platform. But you'll notice here, top 10 pharmaceuticals are leveraging OpenText Documentum. 95% of the top 50 pharmas are leveraging the OpenText Documentum platform, and then 90% of the top 10 biotech companies. So Again, that kind of speaks for itself, just shows the investment, the skill, the knowledge in terms of the platform from an OpenText perspective for the vertical industry. So now let's jump into the actual main theme of today. So I'm just going to do a quick little primer, just spend a minute or so. For those who this may be the first session, so let me just do a few highlights. So the Documentum Life Sciences Suite is made up of 4 modules. We're going to focus on, I'll kind of move forward, on the SSV module, the submission, store, and view. But there are the other modules which Larissa mentioned. We have the recordings based on those sessions we've had prior to today. So you certainly should take advantage and look for those. We have links to them so you can get a little more depth. But I'll just mention a few highlights. So from the e-trial, the master file known as the eTMF module, it's what it basically, the definition of its name. So it's where you can, from cradle to grave, if you will, the full process around managing your eTMF. So it has a wide range of capability, and I think that's the last one of the last webinars that we're going to provide, I believe sometime in January. But that's what its capabilities are. Really just driving the eTMF portfolio of capability. The R&D module covers a wide range of functional areas or business areas within a research and development organization within a life science company, but it also is covering in what I call, dominantly the regulatory aspects of things that are submittable or inspectable, if you will, and more. And it has a very strong medical device capability as well. So, which is in the Q&M module. So quality and manufacturing, typically procedural, manufacturing, quality documents, the whole change control process is part of that quality Q&M module. We're going to focus on SSV today. We're going to go through a few slides together, and then I'm going to transition to Penal. He's going to do a little demo walkthrough, and then if there's any questions, we'll certainly would field them. But SSV is really where you can store, bring in your published output or your submissions in different formats, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. And you can track your correspondence, create and manage your regulatory correspondence for those regulatory activities. And as we get down through the stack, underneath the modules or the suite itself, it's founded on the D2 framework, and the Life Sciences Suite is basically a prepackaged solution that sits on top of that D2 framework. And underneath that is the Documentum repository layer. And then underneath that, at the very most bottom of the stack, where we position ourselves in terms of our major skill sets and strengths, really around application lifecycle, technology deployment, kind of in line with our portfolio, but it really dovetails quite nicely with the suite itself, is from our perspective. So some more details specifically around SSV. So just sort of an overview. This is, like I mentioned briefly, this is where you can import and store your submissions in, ECTD format, NIS, or paper. And it's a scalable platform and secure. So the platform itself across the modules is predominantly role-based. So based on roles, in the solution, you'll have access to information. So that's where the secure aspects come into play. So it's role-based. You're able to view your regulatory correspondence in conjunction with that regulatory submission, or what I would say regulatory activity. So you can see at a fine-grained view, and I have a few screenshots, and then we'll see in the demo what that experience looks like. And the ability to do a quick search, to search your archive submissions and relate the related correspondence. So it's right at your fingertips. There's a whole search capability, and as part of the platform, not specific to SSV, there's the concept of faceted search. So you can kind of type in a word or phrase, and it'll pull back based on those characters or words or phrases. A result set that's kind of in a faceted, kind of rolled up summary, where you could then drill down into certain data elements to get to the documentation or the information that you're interested to view. And then lastly, it's built, there's an ECTD viewer built in to that, within the repository, so in the workspace, and you'll see that in a few screenshots and in the demo. Once you log into the solution, you'll get a workspace, or there's a user experience, and within that experience, there's the ECTD viewing and navigational aspects of the submission, including the full life cycle. So key capabilities, there is an automated submission import process, some hooks into Outlook for correspondence, built-in ECTD viewer, as I mentioned just a minute ago, and the ability to store that agency correspondence alongside your submission files to give you that full regulatory activity history. So I dropped this slide in here just to kind of put into, a baseline context of the framework, beyond just SSV, just kind of overall. The general framework and features is founded on, predefined business rules, so when you look at workflow and lifecycle and the security area, it's based on architected framework in the solution. So the permissioning is based on role and it's based on process, called a business process or lifecycle, based on document lifecycle states. There's pre-configured workspaces, even with the SSV module experience. So based on role, you'll see a workspace experience. So it's tailored to the role you play. And again, in the solution, for those who may or may not have seen the prior sessions, depending on who you are, what roles or groups in the solution that you're onboarded into, you'll get access to certain features and functions or capability. So when you log in as a clinical user versus an SSV user, like a submission archivist, you'll see certain behavior, maybe a very short list or a few things that you can do versus a wide range of things that if you're across a user that spans across different roles or different business functions. So it's those configured workspaces are honoring that role model. And at the very bottom, it just gives you a hierarchical kind of glance. So the solution is founded on the DIA reference models, and there's a number of them, for TMF and for quality or GMP and regulatory. So the platform overall embraces those reference models or industry best practices as part of the solution set. And then here are just some examples from a hierarchical perspective, how things are stored or in a structural view in the repository. So some of this might be a little bit repetitive, but you see a first glance screenshot, and then when we get to the demo, you'll see it active. So here is that browsing or authoring experience, so where you can, bring in or associate communication to the submissions or correspondence is linked to your submissions. You'll be able to look at a regulatory application, and you can see what submission or archive submissions that are associated to that regulatory application. And then you'll be able to see that streamlined view, which we're going to take a glance at shortly, and then the different submission formats that are stored within the system or that are supported. So here's a first glance at what that UI experience looks like. This is a classical submission viewing. So there's a search capability on the upper left corner. So you could search for or find regulatory applications. On the bottom left corner, you'll notice there's a list of regulatory applications. And for demonstration, we're in this screenshot, we're selecting that particular regulatory application, and it's displaying on the middle and in the middle panel of the submission itself, where you can navigate the different modules. You'll see on the screenshot, you could look at the current or cumulative or sequence view, and then you can drill and filter, based on modules, so you can kind of navigate directly to the information that is in question for review. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the connections to that particular regulatory activity as it pertains to various correspondence documents that were needed for that particular regulatory activity. Here is another screenshot that shows or demonstrates the ability to import, a piece of correspondence. So you can import a document, in this case, it's a piece of correspondence. It's a requesting of a meeting, and then the system is asking you, well, for what application does this correspondence belong to? So you'll see in the middle of the screen the selection for application, and then you can really, fine grain associate that down to a sequence, down to a regulatory activity or submission. So this is just one example view of what that experience looks like. And I also dropped in this slide. I'm gonna kind of bubble it out here. So just to plant the seed in your mind, when you start looking at this platform, or in particular SSV or the broader modules, the topic of migration always comes up. It's a sweet spot for here at FME. It's kind of a major strength for us, so it's very important for us to kind of demonstrate our capability. Without getting into a full-blown migration discussion, I just want to demonstrate on this slide that there's a variety of systems out in the market that have structured or potentially unstructured information that we can harness, or let's say encapsulate and bring in, and we see this as an acceleration capability to customers that are onboarding or replatform to the life sciences suite. So again, I'm going to leave it at that. I just wanted to bring that to the table for just a minute to let you know that we do with our product, we're able to migrate customers from a variety of source locations, whether it be structured or unstructured, into this particular suite. And lastly, we honor the D2, the life sciences framework, as you would imagine, the artifact, the metadata properties, security, all of the D2 configs that are made up in the modules are honored through the migration process. So with that said, we're gonna jump over into a demo, probably be about 20 minutes, maybe 15, 20 minutes or so. So I'm gonna transition over to Panal, as he was introduced earlier in the session. And then I'm here. I will be interactive with Panal to go through, if he needs any assistance in terms of description, I'll be here. But I'm going to hand over to Panal so he can dive into the demo aspects, and then we hope there will be some questions towards the end. So Panal, let's jump into the demo aspect of the webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Thanks, everyone. Is it better? My voice is, or it is, I think it's echoing. Is it better,
Nope.
Frank?
We
Okay.
can hear you perfectly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you sound good. Yep. Thanks, Manal.
Yeah. So I'm just going to log into D2, not D2, but Life Science. And let me log in as product manager first. So for any regulatory application, first we need to create the product. Then we are going to create the project. And then with the regulatory manager, we need to create the regulatory application before even the submission archivist is going to import the submission. So we will go through the whole process, registering the product to import the submission, viewing the submission, searching the submission, and then we will import a couple of correspondence document. So this is my user right now, product manager, who is going to create the product. And bear with me because this system is a little bit slow because I'm remote and we have installed everything on the same machine. So yeah, you can see these are the product we created in before. I'm just giving you the example. If it is ETMF, then you will be able to see this product and you will be able to see this. These are the access control who will be able to access and work on the product. And this is general info about the product. So to create the new product in the system, we go through this new menu. And here we create product management. This is a subtype. This is a type product registration form. So I'm just going to give a random name, SSV demo. As I have selected the previous product, it automatically populates these values because of the inheritance. If you want to change, we can change to actual name. Yeah. So here you can provide this product trade name indication. Here you'll be able to provide this list is configurable. You can configure this list, but this is coming out of the box from the OpenText. And these are the access control for the product. And I'm going to create next. So product is a contentless object, just it held the property. So there is no template and it is going to create the product. Right, so after the product is created, we have to start the project. So I'm just going to log in as a project registration group. So before it loads, right, we are going to go through this Documentum config. And this is the basically main configuration that admin is going to configure the application. These are the dictionaries which we are going to display. We are going to configure the whole application where you want to populate the list, and we have taxonomies and everything. We can configure these things depending on your requirement after we had gather all the requirements. So for the project registration, we can go through again new menu, and depending, like as we already have the SSV demo project, we are going product. Once you select this, we can say, so drug substance. Yeah, so this will be automatically populated. Right now it is a bit slow, but normally it will be automatically populated. And these are the access control you can specify. And once you select this, you can select the manufacturer and you can create next. So this project he will be able to give the user access, and he will be able to manage this project throughout the life cycle of the registration. And there will be a regulatory manager.
And one thing to mention, Penal, I'll mention it, that the forms that we've been looking at is predominantly, that's what I would classify as master data, right? It's metadata only. It's structured data around your products, your drug projects. A drug project could be, for a particular product, it could be a certain, dosage form strength, if you will, could be a project. And then that can make it, you can have sort of fine-grained projects for particular product initiatives that are going on within the company. But again, it's all metadata in the end. You associate your regulatory application, which is in essence kind of the beginning of an application or a regulatory activity, which would then be your sequences. But in the end, all this metadata that we're looking at is done over periods of time throughout your business process, and then those metadata elements get associated or based on certain fields that are required on your documents. That metadata is associated to your documentation, which makes that search and retrieval and being able to find your documents in a structured or an organized manner. But I just wanted to point that out, that the registration form data is master data information, or you could even classify it as regulatory information, or RIM.
Yeah, so as a regulatory manager, he'll be able to create the regulatory registration form. This list will be available depending on the user is part of which role. So regulatory application registration form. So here we are going to SSV demo, the project name.
I think it was SSV demo, I believe, right?
Yeah, but it is this list, right? It is asynchronous field, so this will be populated.
Yeah.
So application status, this is right now in development. So geographic region, depending on this, is also configurable, but you can select based on your requirements. So as it is US, this other field will be automatically populated. Like suppose Europe, it will be automatically. So once you select the country, whatever the health authority available, it will be populated accordingly. Right now, we are going to import the submission for the United States, so which is going to be submitted to FDA, and it will be as it is FDA, so it will be NDA, new drug application. And you can specify the, this should be automatically populated right now. It is a bit slower, that's why it is not populating, but yeah. This will come from the product, whatever we have specified. Here, the submission archivist field, so I'm going to select the submission archivist. But if you are not part of, or when the application was created, and if this field is not populated, then they won't be able to import the application. These are the default user who will be able to review, approve. You will be able to specify depending on your business requirement. So now our framework is ready to import the submission, but before we go and import the submission, we have this D2 config where we have one of the dictionary called submission file store. So here, depending on your region and depending on where you want to store, where you have stored all your archive submission, you have to, this location, whatever we specify here, should be able to access from the content server, because import is happening on the content server side. So whatever the shared location you specify here should be able to access from the content server. So this is my shared location, and this is my simple US submission with only one sequence in it, 000. And once you select, so you have to specify this folder path, and then once you start importing, it will import whole submission and all the sequence under this etdocs or whatever the submission name into your content server. So as a regulatory manager, you will be able to specify, or if as a submission archivist, you will be able to do it. So when you go here, you'll be able to see whatever you have specified, but our actual location right now. So you should be able to browse, but I'm using Chrome and I don't have Java, so I'm not able to browse at this time. So I'm going to just, it is exactly same. I'm just selecting this folder, extra folder here, and compromise ECDD sequence. If it is selected, it will compromise. Otherwise, if anything wrong, the status will be inactive or invalid. So you won't be able to import the submission. Right, so now as this user is not a submission archivist, if I import the submission, I should get the message user is not submission archivist. So we have to log in as a submission archivist to import the submission. So we are picking here small submission. Otherwise, if it is a large submission, it is going to take time to import. And depending on how many sequence it has, it will take time accordingly. So here is the SSV demo. We have it for US. So this application is created now. So if as a submission archivist, we can go and import. So it is going to display what sequence you want to select. So it's up to you. If you want to select only few sequence, you can import like this, and you can select this sequence. We are going to do the full import. So it is ECTD format. Application info is here. Your product and project info is here, and you have this access control. As user, this user does not have rights to change any of this, so that's why these are become disabled. So you can set the submission date and submission status, and you can start importing. So when you import, it is going to display that it is importing, right? So that means it is importing behind the scene from the content server side. So as it is small sequence, it will take around 2 to 3 minutes, but it will be imported. You can see the sequence submission folder is created now. And
And the status is there on the right-hand side, right?
yeah, importing.
Showing the import.
Yeah, and you will get this lock icon, red lock icon when it is importing. So it is imported now. You can see the status is active. Then you can go and you will be able to see the submission viewer. And in this submission viewer, how can I close this? Yeah. So you'll be able to see all the sequence, all the documents, your TOC, table of content here, right? And this submission viewer is like if you have any other sequence, sequence like 001, 002, and this document is modified, then you'll be able to get the link here that this is the revised document, latest document, and depending on that, you can navigate to that document directly from this view. And right now I don't have any link, but if there is any link in the document, you'll be able to navigate to the link, hyperlink, and you can go to that particular file, and you'll be able to view that file into this viewer. So okay, right, so here you will be able to find your submission depending on the product code. Like you can easily search if there is any submission and run query.
I think you got to show the doc list because it's cut off on the bottom. See
Yeah,
the widget because the screen share makes it
yeah,
smaller.
yes, okay. Yeah.
There you go.
So you'll be able to see this application from here, and you'll be able to open this application here as well. You can find your submission. So this is the same application I have, and you'll be able to see my favorite applications from here. So whatever, if you have added your favorite application, you can find your regulatory correspondence document, which we are going to import now, and we'll be able to see. And this is about find submission depending on the product code and this. So as a regulatory manager right now, that user is part of this group. So it is, yeah. I should be able to import any correspondence document, any email to this particular application. Right, and you'll be able to see this correspondence email. Right now it is PDF, so I'm just going to say regulatory correspondence document. Depending on this response to agency, right? So it will be FDA, health authority will be populated, product will be populated depending on that, and you'll be able to select another product if you want. Right, so it will be changed accordingly, and then you can finish importing. So once it will be finished, you will be able to see this correspondence document to this application. And right now, different DTD we have support. The LS document has LS solution has support for it, but it is very configurable, and you should be able to add you should be able to add more DTD support in case in future you want to add more support. So it is doable. And yeah, one second. So you'll be able to see this particular correspondence is attached to this two document, two applications. So from there you'll be able to see. And for DTD support, if there is no more DTD available, then you'll be able to add support from the application itself by importing the DTD here. This requires a little bit of work, but it is possible to add new support. So right now the default support is for this Australia, Europe, US. Like suppose if you open this properties, so this support, it has support for 3.3 and 3.3 DTD. If you want to add support for the future CTD, you can import that CTD XML here, and you can specify according to the FDA requirement from this resource here.
Yeah, so that's just as the regulations or things get adjusted, the solution can adapt to those adjustments. I mean, that's the main message that comes. There's a release schedule for this platform, from OpenText, but as those regulations change or specs, for the DTDs, the solution can adapt to that, of course, as Pinal mentioned. So there is a level of flexibility there to evolve with the ever-changing regulations.
Right. And if for any countries, for European, any countries, if they change any specification, we'll be able to add support easily. And there's another basic functionality I just wanted to show you is like quick search with the faceted search. It's a nice feature to drill down the documents, and like you'll be able to see once your search comes, you can drill down based on your. So if you cancel this, so you can drill down the report and search, and you can get what exactly you need easily from the faceted
Yeah,
search.
that's the faceted, right, and that faceted search is existing for the different modules. So if you're kind of in more of a quality manufacturing user, there's a site-oriented faceted model. I mean, we don't have time today to cover that, but you could take a look at that in the recordings that we have available. But yeah, the faceted search is very powerful, and it's across the suite, that capability.
Right, and all this workspace and everything can be configured. This is a standard workspace, but in case if you have needs for any other widget, you will be able to, or user will be able to look at and configure their own workspace. These are the standard things that D2 comes with. So other than SSV. So Frank, do you want me to show something else, or any question? Then we can definitely demo that piece here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're good. I mean, the search, you showed the search for the like the
Yes.
Submission search,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we covered the main aspects. So maybe we can solicit some questions from the group,
So here are the
if there are any. And maybe do a quick look at the a search for correspondence. I think because you created one, right? So we can do a quick search for that, just to give a scenario.
Here is running the query. So
okay. Yeah, so on that left corner, upper left corner, that's technically an accordion style view, right? Because you have the different ribbons, if you will, or we could search by application, by submission, or by correspondence. So there are different search mechanisms that you can. I don't know if you is there any other filter on there?
Product name. We select SSV demo. It's a bug.
Or remove the artifact name and then do because was it a file?
Yeah, I think it was. That's what I forgot what it was. That's why. So
if you go back to the the original screen on the where you did the import, take a look. Actually, it's another thing we could show. You can look at the application. So navigate to the application, and then we can look at the connections, the associations to that regulatory application. So if you look at, it's a response to agency, but now you can see that it's related to that's the application. And I believe if you open up on the bottom, if you spread out the relationship, so you have your application and then the sequence relationship at the bottom. Now, those are two connections. So if you right click and select the bottom one and right click and locate it. So if you go here, now for those who, from an SSV or, just from a general connections to make sure you're familiar, you select that sequence, because what we're looking at right now is that SSV demo in the middle of the screen. That's a sequence. So that's a regulatory activity. And on the bottom list, those relationships, those are actually, that's an application, my apologies. So at the bottom, you'll see the document and the number and the regulatory sequence, the submission sequence that's connected to that application. So as you have multiple sequence registration forms, you'll see those connections. So you'll be able to look, even outside of SSV, the general population will be able to see what documents are associated to a sequence or a regular, or all documents that are connected to a regulatory application. So those connection points kind of work in conjunction with how you manage your archive submissions, which is the published output, which on the left corner, you'll see under SSV demo, you'll see these 4 zeros. So if you click on the left, or you could double click on the middle screen, the zeros, the 4 zeros. And now you'll see the breakdown, the structure of the submitted, the published output. So it's bringing in that archive submission, and it's building out the folder structure in the repository. But as we looked at in the view submission workspace, you're able to navigate that sequence, if you will, or that submission, and it could have multiple sequences technically. You're able to navigate that as Panal demonstrated. So there's different ways of leveraging and finding and searching and navigating. We're just trying to give you some highlights for this session, but there's even more, ways and techniques to from a usability perspective. Just we don't have enough time in just 1 hour to go through it, but we want to cover the highlights. So I think, Larissa, we covered the main essence of, the main theme. I think we can maybe open it up to a few questions if there's any, and then we can work towards a wrap up.
Yes, absolutely. Frank, if you can show just those last couple of slides there that we had.
Yeah, sure.
One of them is open up for questions. So anybody have any questions, please feel free and send them through the chat to the organizer, and we will see them. I know we have one we'll address in just 1 minute. So as we mentioned earlier, we've been doing this series of webinars for the D2 Life Sciences modules. So the next one that's coming up, I think I need the date, Frank. I believe it's January 11th. We thought during the holiday season it would be tough for folks being off to be able to join, so we made that mid-January. So that's on the electronic trial master file module. So you'll see that invitation coming out maybe end of December, but probably early January. So just wanted to let you know about that. And then Frank, there is a question from the audience. How well will this work with veterinary applications or VNIS?
Yeah, so there's, actually I got to double check. We can bring in, so the solution can support that, right? I could triple check with OpenText, of course, but depending on the submission type, as long as it's, because you could bring in NIS or paper-based. We have the eCTDs, which we demoed, so we can follow up with the person who asked that question, and we could even try to mock that up just to prove it out. But because we have the demo environments, so we can add in, the structure, the DTDs if they're available. So I would say it's doable, but I would say let's follow up with the person who asked that question, and then we could even do a mock-up and do a one-on-one demo of that.
Sure.
Yeah, it support the no XML backbone CTDs, so it should work. But definitely for VNIS, we need to confirm with them.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah. So we'll do that follow-up with you. And then there's another one. It's actually around migrations. Have you completed migrations to date to D2 Life Science, and what was the experience?
Yeah, so we've actually been doing migrations to the Life Sciences Suite since 4.1. I think we did something in 4.0 actually for QM, but then the heavier migrations that we were involved in started with the 4.1 release. So the answer is yes. We have done a number of them, covering Q&M and the different modules, Q&M, predominantly Q&M and R&D. And in the beginning, it was a little tricky, to get kind of the mapping modeling in place. But now, we've kind of learned, and it's matured a bit from I would say the solution itself has matured, as well as, Migration Center has been adapted, more closely tied to the framework of the Life Sciences Suite. So, we are fully capable of migrating documents, you know, in high volumes. I mean, we've done customers in the hundreds of thousands of documents to QM and R&D to a couple of million documents and beyond. I mean, I guess over for life sciences suite specifically. I mean, from outside of the life sciences suite, pure Documentum up migrations. I mean, we've done double-digit millions. So from a volume, it's not an issue. So I guess in the beginning, the experience was tough for us in the very beginning when we first started adapting the to the solution, because baking in the configurations, because of, as you could see in the demo, just in an SSV, there's a lot of metadata, right? So we want to make sure all of that metadata enrichment is in place. And the question is more, not so much the one that was brought to the table just now, it's more about, depending on where you're coming from, your source system might have minimal metadata, right? So again, depending on where we're coming from and going to the life sciences suite, you know, in most cases, there'll be a phase of, you know, data enrichment. So if the solution that you have in place today has, you know, a percentage of the metadata that we need, and there's compromises, of course, in all of this. But typically when we get into those style migrations to the suite, the life sciences suite, it's more about aligning your current data modeling where you are now to the future state life sciences suite model. And we typically work closely with the customer to kind of do that enrichment framework where we're associating the right metadata to the documents, and that's just, you know, a mapping exercise and an enrichment process which we've, you know, developed and matured over the years.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see anything else coming up at the moment. We're ending a little early today, I think, but we'll give people back 9 minutes. So that's nice. So if anything comes up and you have any questions, we can be reached at info@fme-us.com. So feel free and reach out to us, and you know, we'll answer any questions. And we do have one follow-up question on the veterinary applications, which we will follow up with you directly. I guess that ends our webinar today. So thank you, Frank. Thank you so much, Panal, and everybody on the line. Have a wonderful day.
Sure. Thank you, Larissa.
Thank you.